Hey, what's up everybody? It's Jeffrey Lyles welcoming you to another installment of Lyles Figure Files. Today, Hasbro had its 40th anniversary for G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, and they really delivered some big reveals. This covered way more than I expected, was anticipating. Last night we saw some pre-orders from the figures we already knew were coming with Stalker and the Crimson Twins. I kind of figured that was all we were going to see, but it was so much more, and I'm so excited to break it all down. First off, let's take a look at some glamour shots, some promotional photos of the figures we already knew were coming, Stalker and the Crimson Twins. And let's kick it off with one of my all-time favorite Joes, Stalker. And it's kind of interesting, it's still February, Black History Month, and Hasbro is actually taking the time to pat itself on the back, which they should with the G.I. Joe brand, because G.I. Joe was always super inclusive right from the beginning. They didn't have to go retroactively create characters to be more diverse. I know we're bringing some man into the Masters of the Universe world. We made King Grayskull for the Masters of the Universe Revelation, and they made Zodak Black in the 2000 series. But G.I. Joe has always been super diverse. I was thinking about it last night. It took until the 6th wave before G.I. Joe didn't actually have a black new addition to the roster, which is pretty cool. And that didn't even include Roadblock in Series 5 with his second outfit. But Stalker was the guy that started off everything. And to me, because of the Larry Hama Real American Hero comic book, where he was positioned as a super important member of the team, second in command until Duke showed up, he was always a really cool character. And I think this figure really does him justice. The beret actually does come off. The scarf comes off, so you can have a classic look. He's got the SMG, and it just is a totally terrific version of Stalker in this classified series line. Love the head sculpt. They did a great job on that. Fade looks good. It just looks like Stalker should in this format. And I think Hasbro really knocked him out. And it comes with a lot of accessories. I really just needed that submachine gun, but he also comes with machine gun, which is great, so you can pawn that off on somebody else. Got his pistol, he's got a knife, and definitely looks like a formidable Joe ready to handle himself in any situation. And until Hawk comes around, he's going to be leading my Breaker, Scarlet, Snake Eyes in action. I'm kind of wondering what we're going to see next in terms of which original 13 member gets slotted in next. Maybe Flash, maybe Rock and Roll. Kind of seems like the more unique characters that would make more sense. But also Zap could be introduced as well, just so we can introduce a Latino character into the mix sooner. But I'm very excited to see Stalker, and I think they knocked him out. And speaking of figures that Hasbro really just totally blew my mind with, the Crimson Twins. I'm not going to break them down into two separate reveals. Tomax, Xamot, they're identical twins, so you got to look at them together, right? And I think one thing that we've noticed we're seeing now with the line that Hasbro started off trying to bring the line into a more modern aesthetic. I think for the most part it was okay. It's just they went a little overboard with the colors, but now as we're seeing more of a Real American Hero interpretation with paying more homage to those original outfits. The figures look better. They look like the figures we got from the 80s in 6-inch form, with a few concessions, few design choices that for the most part have worked for the best. And the Crimson Twins look so great. The sash is there, the pauldron, like their really unique boots with the snake, the whole motif. It looks really good. The smirk on Xamot's face, the nice scar, everything's in place. And I love those daggers they come with, the little the swirly daggers, kind of works for them. And everything about these guys looks really cool. And I know someone also posted that the only downside of having to buy them separately is you don't get to get them in that cool 2-pack where both of them are together. But really, there is nothing else I could have asked for with these guys. Their guns look good. I mean, they knocked those guys out. And Tomax and Xamot look great. And thankfully, we won't have too long before their troops get introduced into the field, as I'll show you real soon. But so, and they really knock these guys out. I don't feel like I'm being redundant, just like, oh wow, they're amazing, but they really are amazing. And I think these are why the G.I. Joe Classified Series line is my favorite. They're just delivering what I wanted with these figures, and I don't feel like, oh man, if only they did this version. Like, there's so many Marvel Legend figures as the last few years, so I'm like, this would be great if Zarana also came with an alternate head sculpt showing her yelling, or if Cannonball originally came with legs and that explosive base. But these classified series, I'm finding myself just every time like, yep, that's what I wanted. Maybe Spirit could have had furry boots, but maybe that's something that's offensive now, and that's fine. But everything else they're doing with these guys, I am loving it. I'm so on board with what they're doing with this line. Every reveal has me so excited. And the final reveal that we knew was coming based off of the renders that we saw from the last live stream is a Viper 3-pack. Now this is okay. I mean, I've got a pretty decent Viper army, and I don't necessarily need a distinct Viper officer, but this time they've included flash, muzzle, gunfire effects, and they're really well done. And this is something I think we've been looking forward to with the line for a long time, and they've included so many that they could definitely, you could share them with other classified series figures we already got, and it's really nice inclusion. Hopefully this is something that just becomes a default with every classified series figure going forward, because it's a nice addition. It's something to continue justifying as the prices go up with every one of these 6-inch figure lines. But really nice job with these. The only downside I'm feeling is this set is $90. So for 3 figures, you're paying $30. And that's way more than even the uptick from the figures you could find right now at Target for 20 bucks. But the Stalker and the Crimson Twins are going up to $25. So we've noticed the uptick from 22. Now they're going to $25. And this 3-pack is $30 a piece, which is weird because typically, back in the Stone Ages, when you would buy one of these value packs, these 3-packs or whatever, they would be cheaper than buying 3 separate figures, because it was, hey, they're a repaint, we're changing something up, here you go, here's a little bonus for buying a pack. Now it's, you're paying more. And I don't know if that's just for the fire effects, but it's kind of, where is this extra value coming from, guys? And why are we paying $5 more for it? Is it just for the muzzle effects? Because it's not enough for army builders. And I think maybe that would have been an easier sell if it was just 3 Vipers and no Cobra officer Viper. We could have just had 3 regular Vipers. I think I may have been able to convince myself that's a good value, but 3 with 1 figure that I really don't want, it's kind of like, I don't need it so much. But at least you have some different accessories to add in with these guys, and for people who want a distinct Viper officer, there you go. So decent set, not really happy about that price tag, and hopefully that's not a sign going forward for multi-packs for the classified series. We did not see the animal pack, but we did see a whole bunch of other reveals, and this marked the last bit of leaked list of 2022 classified series figures that we've already known about basically from late last year. Now we've seen all of the ones on that leaked list, so from this point going forward, we're wide open. It's the wild, wild west with the classified series. It's kind of exciting because it's, who knows what's going to show up, but it's also kind of neat knowing what we're getting. First up was Zarana, and I think they did a really nice job interpreting her costume. She's got a really small leather vest that cuts, right above her waist. Really nice job with that. It's not the same 80s look, but it's definitely, paying homage to that style. I think they really did a nice job with her hair, got the 3 tones going. The snarl for Zarana makes so much sense because she doesn't need to be a character with a neutral expression. Her card art featured her that snark, smart, that snarl. And so I think it works really nicely for her. Next up, Dusty. And I'm loving we're getting so many of my man Flint's wave already. And Dusty, they did a really nice job. I kind of missed that face paint going around his eyes. I thought that looked really cool, but this is probably more realistic. And I don't necessarily hate it. I think they did a nice job interpreting his outfit. The helmet, the goggles are removable so you can see his hair, which is cool. We're not seeing anything in these renders in terms of their accessories. I imagine we'll get the very similar to the Real American Hero design gun, his backpack. And that's really all we need for Dusty. But I am really looking forward to getting him and another version of a figure that we're also going to see in a second. And the last one of the original kind of standard design, regular release figures, the Crimson Guards. And we knew the Crimson Guardsman was coming, and so seeing the figure with really no changes really has me excited. I don't know how far into those guys I'm going to army build, but I want a lot, and maybe I'll be comfortable with 6 because they've always been considered more the elite Cobra Trooper, so where I can have more bats, more Vipers, more Cobra Troopers. I think less is a little more for the Crimson Guardsman, and so maybe I'll stop at 8 just because flanking Tomax and Xamot, you want to have an equal amount with them, 4 on 4. Okay, now I've convinced myself that makes sense. So there we go. So I'm probably going to stick with 8, and yeah, and hopefully we'll get that without too much trouble. But if Hasbro wanted to introduce a 3-pack, maybe they could throw in the Crimson Guardsman Immortal. That way we could kind of work all that in, have a different officer trooper for Crimson Guardsman, and have more multi-pack options, just as long as it's not like 35 by that point. But I really love what they did with the boots, the silver and the crimson. It's such a great color scheme. Really nice job with this guy. And I'm assuming and hoping we get the rifle with the bayonets attached to it too, because that was such a cool aspect to the Crimson Guardsman design. So that's that. Now we're moving on to a slew of Target exclusive figures because they have so many figures and not just repaints of ones we've already seen, which I prefer. We're getting a whole bunch of new figures that are making their debuts, so we'll need to wait, have a little patience before we actually see them in the classic RH designs. But I am very excited based off just their Python Patrol and Crimson Guardsman looks, or Tiger Force in Python Patrol looks. First up is the Python Cobra Trooper. And this figure really does a nice job with that whole Python Patrol gimmick, the color scheme and whatever. I never really loved that whole subgroup, but I thought the colors were kind of wild. And seeing them in 6-inch form looks a little better to me than the Real American Hero scale. So this one's a really nice color scheme. I'm probably not going to get any of the Python Patrol figures at this point, but really nice job on it. But now we got some Tiger Force reveals that have me very excited because I cannot wait to see what they look like when we get them in their typical standard colors and outfits, or just colors basically, because it doesn't look like there's going to be any changes, nor does there need to be based off how well these sculpts look, even just in the digital render form. So first up is Recondo, and Recondo is the Joe Jungle Trooper, and clearly someone that should be part of Tiger Force, of course, and he looks outstanding right from the handlebar mustache, that super great hat, and he just captures the look of Recondo, the Joe who kind of can't be bothered with everything else. He's fine being in the jungle forever and then popping up as needed to help out on missions, but they knocked this guy out. I'm wondering if we get some really talented digital painters out there who can just take that colored version for their Tiger Force and paint him up into the original outfit just to see what it would look like, because I would love to see just how that figure would look just from the basic color scheme. Next up was another big, huge surprise. Tiger Force Bazooka. And Bazooka, of course, another member of my man Flint's group. So I was very excited to see the sculpt, to see that head sculpt, to see how good Bazooka looked. Now I just have to envision what he looks like with the red jersey and the blue lettering. But Bazooka was a really fun character, and he was one of the rare characters that was probably more fun in the cartoon than he was in the comic. He was kind of not really used in the comic so much, but in the cartoon he was great because he was kind of slow and paired up with Alpine, who talked a ton. And I just love that pairing. It's one of my favorites of the Joe era, right alongside Wetsuit and Leather Neck. And yeah, just there were some good pairings, and that was one of my favorites. So love those two, and seeing how they knocked out Bazooka just for Tiger Force. Cannot wait to see what it looks like in regular colors. And I'm very curious now how long it's going to take before we get these guys. Now, we've seen the Cobra Trooper, we've seen the Bat, and we've seen the Crimson Guardsman. And I know there's a Python Patrol Crimson Guardsman look as well. And we've seen their versions, minus the Crimson Guardsman, of Python Patrol. But for the Joes, we've already seen Outback. Now we've seen Recondo and Bazooka. We haven't seen these guys in regular form yet. So I'm curious how long it's going to take us, if it's going to be a whole year before they show those classic colors, just because, you know, it's February now. We haven't seen the Tiger Force or Python Patrol figures on stands at Target. So maybe it's going to be just this thing of, all right, Outback, Recondo, Bazooka have a year window before we actually get to see them showing up in their regular colors. But I hope it's not that long. And I prefer the model where we're showing the versions of those characters, then to ship them off to the subset lines, because I'm very excited, but I'm not going to buy these as stand-ins and holdover until the figure versions that I want come out. And hopefully it's not too long. And hopefully we don't have so many. Like, I feel like Tiger Force Duke, Tiger Force Flint are better options than new characters that we haven't seen before. You know, hopefully they do that more often, because, geez, it just seems like it's going to be so long before we get new versions and classic looks. Now, another figure that was a really nice surprise, and definitely one that I was not expecting, was Kamakura. And this is standard version, no Ninja Force, no Tiger Force, etc. No Night Force. It's just straight up Kamakura. And Kamakura was one of the later characters introduced to the line, the mythos of G.I. Joe. I really don't remember if he had a 3/3/4 inch version in the standard Real American Hero line. So I kind of feel like he was back in the Spy Troops era of G.I. Joe. I know I got his figure when Hasbro made him, so I just don't remember if that was from the original version or not. Kamakura was definitely featured really strongly in the Devil's Due version of G.I. Joe comic books. And he looks cool. He has a removable or swappable head, so you can have him with the ninja mask on and off. That's a nice option. Looks cool. The design on his outfit looks great. And really impressed that they're going with the newer character. There are some very cool newer characters that weren't part of the O-Ring Real American Hero line. So I'm curious to see how many of those we can see from Hasbro with the Classified Series line, because there are quite a few. Maybe I should do a whole episode on those characters that missed out on that earlier run of Joe, but had cool figures nonetheless that would make for fine additions to the Classified Series line. I think we'll do that. So stay tuned for that. That was just like immediately came to my mind. We'll work on that and get it out to you soon. So got that. But another home run hitter for this wave of reveals was Dr. Mindbender. And I think he completes the main core of Cobra. And they knocked this dude out so well, from the monocle to the cape. The cape actually looks like it did from the comic, and it has the flare up, and it doesn't look like it's going to fall on you. And they did some really nice job in terms of what they described with the rendering. It really looks cool. And I can't wait to see the prototypes just to see it more in action. But they captured his whole, buffed up physique, which is wild considering his dentist background. And yeah, they really knocked everything out with him, from the boots, the legs, just the designs on his arms. This is Dr. Mindbender, Real American Hero version, translated basically right into the classified series line format. This is what I want from this series, and I think they really delivered. They over-delivered in this case. I'm looking forward, as always, to seeing what accessories he comes with, but hopefully it's that Lance rifle, because that was cool. And the team mentioned that they are going to go further into the wider aspects of the crazy characters of G.I. Joe. Emily did kind of tease that maybe Serpensor may be showing up soon, maybe as early as the June reveals for the Yojo June, and that already seems way too long, so hopefully we have another showcase of reveals for Joe's before June, but that's one to definitely put on the radar. And one other note on the classified series front, those retro card figures, they've mentioned that, yeah, some people in Walmart were able to track down the Baroness figure that got released super early, but we're going to see those up for pre-order in late March for Walmart CollectorCon, which seems super long from now considering some stores have already had them. But this will be our chance to get Lady J, Baroness, a very accurate old school color gung-ho, and more of a classic look Destro. And I'm definitely buying gung-ho, but I'm a little worried that I may have to double dip and get Destro too. But really nice looking jobs on those figures, so we'll be able to all get our shot to get them come the end of March. So stay tuned, and hopefully those pre-orders won't vanish in seconds so we can all get a chance to get them. And the last thing was a really cool option, nice thing for everybody who loves those mashups. The new one, Transformers and G.I. Joe. This actually has basis for the comic book when Megatron teamed up with Cobra, not a shocker, and he became a tank in that, which was different because he'd always been a gun in the comic book, but at this point then it shifted over to his Generations look, made him into a tank, and Baroness comes with him this time. And I was kind of thinking, oh man, you guys could have thrown in Dr. Biggles here. That would have been a nice nod to the comic book. But she's a character that has nowhere near the status, the clout of the Baroness. So it makes more sense to throw her in there. And Megatron transforms into a Hiss tank, which is such a suitable, perfect choice. It comes with a rail gun, which I think works well because in that G.I. Joe crossover or Transformers cameo for Megatron, he had a rail gun that was attached to his tank, so it makes a lot of sense. Very cool, and it's only, or is, $90. I don't think it's too terrible a price considering you get Megatron, it transforms into a Hiss tank, and you get Baroness, the 3 3/4 inch O-ring style. Doesn't seem like a terrible option or price point to me, and you know, a Hiss tank Megatron, it seems like kind of a one of those great mashups that you wish you could have back as a kid, and I don't know, it made me smile. So I'm looking forward to seeing if that's something I do add to my collection, because I could use a classic Hiss tank that also transformed to Megatron as well. So that's it for the reveals. Really exciting time to be in a G.I. Joe, and I am so stoked to see what we got now, because like I said, this was the last setup, the last lineup of Joes that we knew from that leak list. Everything going forward is brand new, and I guess we still know there's a Pet and a Joe or Cobra coming in a 2-pack with a vehicle, but that's it. We don't know who those characters are, so still wide open. We just kind of have an idea of what to look forward to, but man, I'm so excited about G.I. Joe, and these figures, these reveals are really getting me excited the more and more we see of them. So really looking forward to seeing what's coming down the road for the rest of 2022. But let me know what you thought about these reveals and which figures you're most excited about. And you can always check out the pre-order links that I have down here so you can get Stalker, the Crimson Twins, Megatron, Baroness, Hiss tank mashup, and the Viper 3-pack right now. So thank you so much for watching. This episode of Lyle's Figure Files has been fun.